What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It is that time of year, the time of year you know and love. Today, it is time to start my official NFL 2024 rankings for the season, and today, we got the quarterbacks. So with little to no explanation needed on how this works, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 600 subscribers, and quick disclaimer as usual, if you disagree with anything I say, anything at all, please let me know down in the comments what positions in the rankings you would switch around, anything like that. So without further ado, let's get straight into this video. Cue that intro. Okay, so once again, with little to no explanation on how this works, we're going to start with number 32, and that is none other than Sam Darnold. And who else would be in this spot? I mean, he hasn't played a fully entire season since 2021 because he's been so garbage these past couple years that they can't help but bench him. They took Brock Purdy over him. It's just that's the bottom line. At least he's got some decent weapons to throw to, Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. But besides that, like, there's not really much to go off of than to put him at number 32. All right, next up at number 31, we got Tommy DeVito / Drew Lock or Daniel Jones, whoever's going to be the quarterback there. It's really a toss-up between Drew Lock and Daniel Jones. It's because these guys are so garbage. Before Daniel Jones got hurt in those 6 games, he threw 2 touchdowns and 6 interceptions, obviously losing the season opener to the Dallas Cowboys 40-0. I can only imagine how embarrassing that must be. But bottom line, Daniel Jones hasn't had much success. They're paying him a lot of money just to throw 15 touchdowns and only 9 interceptions in 1 year, taking him to a mediocre, like, 9-7-1 record. All right, next up at number 30, we've got Bo Nix, new quarterback for the Denver Broncos. He was just named the starter yesterday. I think that was a great decision. They weren't going to take Zach Wilson. But again, like, you know, he's not really set up with much. I mean, he's basically only been given Cortland Sutton, and that's basically it. He has no offensive line. He has no other receivers, maybe besides Amarius Mims or Greg Dulcich. But, you know, if he's under the influence of Sean Payton, if he listens to Sean Payton, he could be a very dangerous quarterback. But overall, the Broncos franchise right now is in a lot of shambles, and plus we haven't seen him play, so I can't put him any higher than number 30 this time around. All right, at number 29, we got Deshaun Watson from the Cleveland Browns. Again, a guy that really did not play a full season, nowhere close to a full season. He only played like 5 games or so, but the Browns were going in to have a good record, so there still is hope for Deshaun Watson. However, he's just so messed up and focused on what's happening, you know, outside of football that, you know, he's not really focused on the field of play, and so that's why he hasn't been good for a couple of years. He's getting old. He doesn't have the weapons like he used to be, like he used to have with DeAndre Hopkins. But he has been given David Njoku and Amari Cooper. So again, there still is hope for Deshaun Watson. But I will believe it when I see it. All right, next up at number 28, yes, we do have Drake May, because I highly doubt that they're going to start Jacoby Brissett over the guy that they spent the number 3 overall pick for. But again, this guy has been solid in the preseason. We just have to see him play on the main roster. The reason that he's this low is because he hasn't, again, much like Bo Nix, he hasn't really been given the weapons. Like, he's been given Kendrick Bourne, Demario Davis, and Hunter Henry, and that's basically it. His offensive line's not protective. They can't, they're not going to give Drake May much time to throw the ball, so, he's got to find a way to do something. but either way, Drake May is at number 28 because there just are some rookie quarterbacks and quarterbacks overall that are just better than him right now. I'm sorry. I would love to put him higher at the end of the season, but I think 28 is a fair spot for him right now. All right, next up at number 27, we got Will Levis from the Tennessee Titans. We saw a lot of flashes from this guy last year. He's been given the weapons. He's been given DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, and Tony Pollard to throw the ball to. They've set him up. They drafted J.C. Latham, so he's got some protection. But basically, the entire Tennessee Titans roster rests on his shoulders. If he's good, then the Tennessee Titans will be good. If he's bad, well, then the Tennessee Titans are cursed. But it was way too short amount of time for us to see Will Levis actually, prove if he's good or not. But now that he will play a full season, we'll see Will Levis's true colors if he truly is that franchise guy that the Titans know he is. Alright, next up at number 26, we got Bryce Young from the Carolina Panthers. I don't think he's a bad quarterback. I just think that he was never really given a fair shot last year. 11 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, under 3,000 yards. I mean, he had no receivers. He barely had any running backs. Miles Sanders had the worst year of his life. He had no offensive line, no head coach, Frank Wright. He barely knew what he was doing. That he's got Dave Canales and Deontay Johnson, and he's been set up with a good running back that they could potentially throw to with Jonathan Brooks, and they got some more offensive line help. So Bryce Young is going to be more protected this year. He's going to be a lot better than when he was last year, but I mean, we still must be real. The Panthers team is still a mess right now, and it's going to take like a couple years for them to rebuild. So right now, I have Bryce Young at number 26. Alright, next up, we got Gardner Minshew. I know it says Aiden O'Connell right there, but ignore that. Gardner Minshew, I think he gets a lot more hate than he actually should. Last year, he got the Colts to a winning record, finished 15 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. I don't think he's a bad quarterback at all, especially since now that he's been given Davante Adams and Jacoby Myers, and they drafted a new tight end, Brock Bowers, to throw him the ball. And, it's not like they don't have a running game. They could potentially, take a breather and give Zamir White the ball, and mainly because anyone's better than Alexander Madison, who didn't even score a single rushing touchdown last year. But they've been given the offensive line help that they needed. It just really depends on if Gardner Minshew is going to be good or not. If he's good, then the Raiders will really have a shot. And if he's bad, then the Raiders will be bad. If you saw my division predictions, I don't have them having the best record. At least not yet, because the Raiders team is still much like the Panthers. Their team is still a little bit of a mess right now, and it really needs a couple years for them to rebuild. All right, next up at number 24, give me Derek Carr from the New Orleans Saints. I'm still trying to figure out how this guy's actually still around, and I'm still trying to figure out how the Saints actually got convinced into paying him that much money. It's not like he has a bad team. He's just that bad coach, and he's just been around forever. That he's regressing at a rapid rate. I mean, he's got the talent. He's got the talent around him. But much like, the Raiders and Panthers, if he has a good season, then the Saints will have a good season. Not nearly as bad of a season as I think they're going to have. But if he's bad, then my predictions will be right. They will go at least 4-13 in the season. Because, again, let's be real, the Saints team is still an absolute mess right now. Ever since Drew Brees and Sean Payton left that organization and Michael Thomas left, then the Saints have just been a mess ever since, and it's going to take a while for them to rebuild. Hopefully not too long, but it's going to take a while for Derek Carr to earn my trust back. All right, next up at 23, we have Russell Wilson slash Justin Fields. I'm assuming it is going to be Russell Wilson, but who knows? Maybe Justin Fields could potentially take over at the at like midway through the season. Russell Wilson, he gets a lot more heat than he actually should, much like Gardner Minshew. 24 touchdowns to only 8 interceptions is not bad at all. And Justin Fields was dealing with a lot of injury stuff. He was not really set up to succeed last year, nor is he this year. I just kind of feel like that Justin Fields has been cursed lately. But either way, Russell Wilson will get the starting job. At least that's what I've been told. But either one of these guys will end up doing well. The only concern is their receiving core with George Pickens and Pat Freiermuth. But their offensive line, they've been backed up with their defense. Their defense is one of the most solid in the league. Again, only concern really is their receivers besides George Pickens. But other than that, I think Russell Wilson and Justin Fields should be good to go. All right, next up, give me Anthony Richardson from the Indianapolis Colts. There he is. Again, if it wasn't, he only played 4 games last year, and if it wasn't for injuries, he would have had his very significant year before he got injured that 4th game. 3 touchdowns to only 1 interception. The Colts were doing really well. I mean, I like how Gardner Minshew took control. But the thing is, they're gonna have a very solid rushing team. They added Jonathan Taylor, just coming back from injury. Both Jonathan Taylor and Anthony Richardson are coming back for injury. They just paid Michael Pittman Jr., who is a solid number 1. Again, much like Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, the only real concern is like the lack of receivers. But if Michael Pittman is able to overcome all that adversity and become like a rushing quarterback or should I say dual threat quarterback, then the Colts could be really dangerous this year. All right, next up at number 21, give me Jaden Daniels from the Washington Commanders. I love this guy. They just lost Jahan Dotson. He's been given to us. Again, like these past couple dudes, the lack of receivers. I know he's got scary Terry McLaurin, but he's behind one of the worst offensive lines in the league. A lot of people would put him higher than 21, but I just don't think he's been given a good enough team around him in order to be successful. I could be wrong, though. All right, next up at number 20, give me Geno Smith from the Seattle Seahawks. I'm sorry, but this guy is going to regress this year. He's 31 years old. He's not as good as he once was in like 2022. I know he still has the weapons, but he's got an aging Tyler Lockett, a very inexperienced Jackson Smith and Jigba. The only real dangerous weapon that he has is DK Metcalf. His offensive line's very kind of mid, and he barely has enough of a running game besides Kenneth Walker to hand the ball off to, so they can cut them some slack. Overall, I just don't think that the Seahawks are going to be very significant this year. And if I were the Seahawks, I would draft a new quarterback very soon because Geno Smith is not going to be around forever. All right, next up at number 19, give me Baker Mayfield from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think this guy had one of the best bounce-back seasons by any QB. 28 touchdowns, only 10 interceptions, above 4,000 yards. That is by far the most immaculate season that he's had yet. Again, the offense around him is aging. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, they're not going to be around forever. But those are still 3 solid weapons, including, not to mention, Rachaad White is a very well played out dual threat running back. I just think that, Baker Mayfield, a lot of people are saying that this season was kind of a fluke for him. I don't think so, but we'll have to see this upcoming year. All right, next up at number 18, give me Kyler Murray from the Arizona Cardinals. Again, if it wasn't for injuries last year, he would have been very dominant. He was still able to make nothing out of something, and now he's been given arguably the best wide receiver in the entire draft with Marvin Harrison Jr., not to mention James Conner, a very well dual threat. Greg Dortch, who's been pretty consistent over those last couple games. And, most importantly, one of the best young tight ends in the entire league, Trey McBride. I think that Kyler Murray will be very consistent this year, mainly because the Cardinals will be a lot better this year. They've played out this offseason really well. All right, next up at number 17, give me Caleb Williams from the Chicago Bears. A lot of people may argue that this is a little too high, but I just think that the Bears have had too good of an offseason not to put him inside the top 20. Caleb Williams, obviously the number 1 overall pick in the draft. He's been given Cole Kmet. He's been given DeAndre Swift. He's been given Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, you name it. Again, if you saw my award prediction videos, I predicted that he will get the Offensive Rookie of the Year, and I still stand by that. A lot of people may argue that it could be Marvin Harrison Jr. I still think it's Caleb Williams because his team has had such a great offseason. He has so many options to throw to, and so for that, I think that Caleb Williams will be very successful this year. The only reason I don't put him high is because we haven't seen him play quite yet, so I don't know if he's going to be inside like top 15 material just yet. Alright, next up at number 16, give me Kirk Cousins from the Atlanta Falcons. Look, if he hadn't gotten injured last year, he would have won the MVP. He played 5 games through 18 passing touchdowns. That is immaculate numbers, but we have to be real. He's still like a 36-year-old quarterback. He has the talent around him, but yeah, he's a 36-year-old quarterback coming off an Achilles injury, left half of his Achilles back in that stadium. It'll probably never be the same 2023 Kirk Cousins that we saw last year, but I could be wrong. He could make an impact. The only thing is just there are some quarterbacks that are better than him right now. All right, next up at number 15, give me Tua Tagovailoa, and again, you know, a lot of people may argue with this. Everyone thinks that he may be put in the top 10. I mean, I get it. He's consistent, and he was the passing yards last year, but that was in the regular season. Put him in the playoffs or just against a dangerous opponent, he's gonna lose every single time, and that has been proved to be a fact over and over and over again every single time. And Tua Tagovailoa is starting to turn into that quarterback that's like, you can't win the big one. I'm sorry to all you Dolphins fans, but it's true. Alright, next up at number 14, give me Trevor Lawrence from the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't think that this guy's a bad quarterback at all. I think he's just never really been given the chance. However, last year, I thought Calvin Ridley was going to be the missing piece, but it turns out he only took that into 21 touchdowns and 14 interceptions last season. So, like, Trevor Lawrence has got to reach that next level or he's got to go. But they have been given the talent. They drafted Brian Thomas Jr., Christian Kirk, still been very consistent. Gabe Davis didn't have a bad season last season at all. It's just that he was sitting behind Stephon Diggs and Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox. So how would you get play time? Again, and they have one of the best tight ends in the league. The tight end that had the most receptions out of any tight end last season, Evan Ingram, and one of the best dual threat running backs in the entire league, Travis Etienne. So I feel like if Trevor Lawrence plays it safe this year, he could have one of the best seasons of his entire career by far. Alright, next up at number 13, give me Aaron Rodgers from the New York Jets. I mean, he's 40 years old. He's nowhere near what he used to be, but we still are going to be real. He's still Aaron Rodgers. He's going to be a top 10 all-time QB regardless. Heck, I think he already might be a top 10 all-time quarterback. But, you know, he still has the weapons. He still has Mike Williams, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, and Tyler Conklin potentially. The only thing now is that if he's ever going to be the same after he's coming off that horrible Achilles injury. I don't think he is, and that's why he's at number 13. All right, next up at number 12, give me Matthew Stafford from the Los Angeles Rams. I mean, a lot of people expect this guy to be in the top 10, but, like, come on. 24 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. You're acting like he just won the Triple Crown. Like, don't be delusional. However, he still is one of the most consistent quarterbacks in the entire NFL. I don't think he's going to be bad this year whatsoever. If you guys saw my division predictions, I projected that they're going to win win second place in their division, only behind, the 49ers. But I just think that he's been set up for success. I mean, obviously he got one of the best wide receiver duos in the entire league, along with a running back that can catch the ball very well. The only concern is that his age, like he's almost 40 years old, and you have to question if he's really going to be that Matthew Stafford that was there in 2021. I don't think he is, but he's by no means the worst quarterback. If anything, he's a good quarterback, just not top 10. All right, next up at 11, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to all you fans out there, all you 49ers lovers, but Brock Purdy is number 11. He's not, by no means, not a top 10 quarterback just yet. I mean, I know he went to the Super Bowl. He threw 31 touchdowns to only 11 interceptions, but it's still going to take like at least one more season for me to actually believe that he's top 10 material. I'm sorry. I don't think he's a bad quarterback at all. It's just that I don't think that the 49ers are going to be as good this year because, more teams are going to start to figure him out, and I think he's going to throw more than 11 interceptions this season. I don't see him like regressing talent-wise in any way possible, but I just think more teams are going to start to figure it out. I think they're going to have the formula for the 49ers this season, and especially for Brock Purdy. All right, next up at number 10, give me Jordan Love from the Green Bay Packers. I like this guy. I've always liked him. He was basically a sponge for the 3 years that he sat behind Aaron Rodgers, and looks like the learner became the teacher. I mean, 32 touchdowns to only 11 interceptions. 32 touchdowns. That was second in the league in his first year as a starter. I know what I said about Brock Purdy, but, I mean, Brock Purdy took a 9-8 team and made it into legitimate Super Bowl contenders. The only difference between Brock Purdy and Jordan Love is just the thing that Brock Purdy already had a team that was Super Bowl contenders. Jordan Love made the Packers Super Bowl contenders, so that's why he is a top 10 quarterback, for me at least. All right, next up at number 9, we have the man that beat out Jordan Love for the most touchdowns. We have Dak Prescott. Again, I'm a Cowboys hater. I'm an Eagles fan, but, I mean, I still have to put Dak Prescott in the top 10. I still have to give him his flowers. He had the highest completion percentage out of any quarterback, 36 touchdowns to only 9 interceptions, came in third in most passing yards. Overall, the Cowboys had one of the best, passing offenses in the entire league. The only thing is that he's lost a lot of help. He's lost the offensive line. He's lost Tony Pollard. Now he has Ezekiel Elliott. So he's going to throw the ball a lot because since they have no run game and now allow for more defense to figure him out, and he's going to throw a lot more picks than only 9. Plus, we got to be real. Dak Prescott had like one season where he was really consistent, but besides that, he hasn't been, like this, Super Bowl contender quarterback. I mean, I don't hope. Well, most people hope their opinions can change on him, but the more I watch him, the more I realize that he can't win the big one. All right, next up at number 8, give me Justin Herbert from the Chargers. I want to put this guy higher. I really do, believe me. But, I mean, who is he going to throw the ball to? Josh Palmer? Quentin Johnston? DJ Chark? The only wide receiver that they have right now that I'm fully satisfied with is Ladd McConkey or Josh Palmer. Well, I don't know if I just said Josh Palmer, but I just don't think that he has anybody to throw the ball to. I really don't. I mean, they had the opportunity to get like Malik Neighbors, but they took a offensive tackle. They took Joe Alt. And I just think that the Chargers are set up to fail this year. I don't think they're going to be a good team. I don't think that Justin Herbert is going to have that good of stats, and I just don't think that the Chargers are going to have that much success until I hope my opinion can change on him. But the more I watch him, the more I realize that they're not going to be that good this year because Herbert has nobody to throw the ball to. I'm sorry. All right, number 7, give me C.J. Stroud from the Houston Texans. I don't think that he's going to regress at all this year. If anything, I think he's going to get better. I think he's going to have a healthy season this time. He's been given the weapons. I just don't know what else a quarterback can ask for but from C.J. Stroud. I just don't know what else that the Texans could ask for. I mean, they've been given literally every opportunity, and I think that they could legitimately be Super Bowl contenders this year. If C.J. Stroud is good, then they are going to be Super Bowl contenders. Last year, he threw for 23 touchdowns to only 5 interceptions. Obviously won the offensive Rookie of the Year last year, but are they going to be able to duplicate what they did last season into this season? I think they will, and I think they might go to the AFC Championship. All right, next up at number 6, give me Jared Goff from the Detroit Lions. A lot of people put him outside of the top 10. You guys are nuts to do that. Last year he came in second in the league in passing yards, and threw for 30 touchdowns to only 12 interceptions, leading his team to the NFC Championship. Again, he's been one of the most consistent quarterbacks for years now. He has all the weapons he could ask for. I mean, he has Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, and Jahmyr Gibbs, and Jameson Williams, and behind the best offensive line in the entire league. I don't know what else you want from Jared Goff. I mean, I think he's definitely just outside the top 5 because there just are 5 quarterbacks that are better than him right now. Speaking of which, one of those quarterbacks are, unfortunately, I don't want to put this guy below any of these guys, but I just can't be biased. Number 5 is Jalen Hurts. Last season just was not that good. I don't know what else to say besides that last season was just not that good. He wasn't as confident running the ball. He wasn't as confident throwing the ball. He wasn't really put in a very good situation last year. But now that they got Saquon, 2 different coordinators on both ends of the ball, I think that he could have a really big bounce back year, especially since they just added a good third string receiver, Jahan Dotson, and Saquon Barkley can catch the ball really well, and don't even get me started with Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith, and the monster A.J. Brown, and behind one of the best offensive lines in the entire league. I definitely think that the Eagles and the Lions are going to run the NFC this year, and no, don't even say the 49ers. I think that Jalen Hurts is going to take a big step up as a passer this year, and not as much of a runner since they did get Saquon Barkley. Alright, next up at number 4, we have Josh Allen from the Buffalo Bills. I know. He had the most touchdowns last year out of any quarterback. I get it. But he did also have some of the most turnovers out of any quarterback. I mean, we still have to be real here. And plus, you let Gabe Davis go to the Jaguars. You traded Stephon Diggs. He finally diva'd out of his way to go to Jacksonville. But I do have confidence in Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir. We saw a lot of flashes from Khalil Shakir and Dalton Kincaid last year. They have a very dominant tight end duo. The only thing I'm concerned with is the running back. Last year, he fumbled more times than he scored rushing touchdowns. But he is a very great dual threat running back with James Cook and everything. And if Josh Allen plays his cards right, then the Bills could be legitimate Super Bowl contenders. I have them at least winning their division. Alright, next up at number 3, give me Joe Burrow from the Cincinnati Bengals. Again, all of his injuries have been flukes. I know that. I get it. But, I mean, it really comes down to if that loss of Tyler Boyd or if T. Higgins, wanting to request a trade. It all comes down to if the outside factors of the team really come into play of his actual playing on the field. I mean, they got a lot of offensive line help by drafting Amarius Mims, and they have one of the best receivers in the entire league with Jamar Chase. But my thing is that if he can stay healthy. If he can't stay healthy, then the Bengals are going to win the Super Bowl. Or at the very least, make it to the Super Bowl. All right, next up, number 2, give me Lamar Jackson, the reigning defending MVP. I mean, how could this guy not be at least in the top 2? Most people could argue that he is number 1, but I don't think he's number 1 considering he lost to the guy who was number 1 in the Super Bowl. But, again, still won the MVP. Still is one of the most dominant rushing quarterbacks that we may have ever seen. I really hope that he can win a Super Bowl sometime soon. But he's starting to turn into one of those guys such as Josh Allen. He's starting to turn into one of those guys like you can't win the big one. I really hope that that's not the case for Lamar Jackson. But anyway, moving on to number 1. You guys already know. It is Patrick Mahomes. Again, he's the next Tom Brady. I don't know what else to say. He's not going away. And teams either have to learn to beat him or he's just going to win the Super Bowl for years to come. I hope that's not the case. But there you have it. There are my top 32 NFL quarterbacks for the 2024 season. Alright guys, that's going to wrap it up for this video. I know it was kind of long, but, thank you guys for bearing with me as usual. If you have any complaints on anything that I said, please let me know in the comments. I want to know. I like you guys arguing with me in the comments. I like that. It really gives me an opportunity to find out what I could do better. So please leave a comment saying what you disagree with, what you could change, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 600 subscribers. Thank you guys for all the support you've been showing me every step of the way. Every subscriber, every like really helps me out a lot to get monetized, which I hope happens very soon. So without further ado, I see y'all guys next time I upload. Peace!